So painting provides that space where I can have a contemplative, meditative experience, have a self-reflective experience, have a sense of like meaning and purpose in my life without having to adopt any other religious framework. My name's Kadar Brock. I'm an artist from New York City. I live in Ridgewood, Queens, and have my studio in Brooklyn. So all the paintings are made through a ritualistic process of painting and then deconstructing various images. All of the images in this exhibition and in my work for the last 4 to 5 years have been pulled from an archive I've been building that's focused on a specific New Age religion or New Age cult called the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. Part of building that archive of images has involved traveling to different locations to photograph sites connected to the church's history and birth, as well as collecting primary source documents such as newspapers, pamphlets, and other publications of the church 60s up through the recent times. So I'll paint those images in kind of a conventional manner using oil paint on canvas, after which I'll take the canvas off the stretcher bars and sit down with a razor blade and scrape away at the image, essentially deconstructing this symbol of a system of belief and a way of looking at the world. After that image has been deconstructed, I'll restretch the canvas and then paint on it again, repeating the process. So all these images kind of slowly erode and meld into one another and turn into these more harmonious and abstract fields. My goal with doing that is to both deconstruct my own experience of my own relationship to that belief system through my parents and through my upbringing, and also to talk about the idea of deconstructing one's own beliefs and worldviews and moving towards a site of kind of contemplation and repose. For me, art has become the space in which I can experience the spiritual, even if it is no longer part of a belief system per se. And so I hope that the paintings can kind of provide a similar experience for the people who look at them. So the holes appear in the canvas as a result of the scraping that I'm doing. As I mentioned, the paintings are made through this process of painting and erasing, and the main action involved in that erasing is taking a razor blade and a window scraper and essentially treating the canvases in the same way that I would treat my painting palette after I had done it, had a day of painting where I had dry paint that I needed to get rid of. And so part of doing that was about removing the hierarchy between the painting palette and the canvas and trying to make the canvas equal to the painting palette, if that makes sense. So instead of the canvas being a revered object, it was something just as any other surface in the studio, whether it be a wall, the floor, or my painting palette. So as I'm scraping away at these canvases, as I'm scraping away at the images that I've painted, the canvas rips. And so when that rip happens, then there's a hole in the canvas. I also sand them afterwards, yeah, exactly. So that's how they get that very kind of soft and smooth surface. So after I've painted layers and layers of them, I'll also sand them down as well as part of that kind of deconstructive process. So I work on multiple works at a time because between layers of painting, I have to wait for the painted parts to dry. So let's say I paint an image on that painting over there. I'll move it to the side and set it in another part of my studio, and it'll sit there for 2, 3, 4 months so it can dry. But while that's happening, I'll paint on a bunch of other canvases as well. And so all of them are all slowly getting moved down the road towards completion. As each final painting has anywhere from 3, 4, 5, or 6 layers of painting going into it, they can take anywhere from 2 years to 3 years to 4 years to complete. It also involves a lot of me sitting and staring at them to make sure they feel right. Oh yeah, I go to the studio for regular hours every day. I usually am there for 8 or 9 hours a day. I'll work on different canvases in different stages, also work on other projects such as the books that I make, or I have some other things that I'm always kind of checking out in the studio. Currently I've been working on a large weaving, which is using all the cut up t-shirts that I use to clean up paint in the studio, my painting rags. So I'm turning them into yarn, quote unquote, and making a big weaving. We'll see how that turns out. I'm doing a project where I'm coloring in some of the books that I printed as kind of a special edition. So that takes up some time. And always kind of have to do admin work, update my website, stuff like that. But usually I'm just in there painting and scraping and sanding at things. If I don't paint and work for any stretch, I start getting a little kind of uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think so. It was interesting. I have a friend who also grew up in an alternative religion, and we were at the beach at the end of the summer, talking about painting, talking about our experiences, and he brought up this idea that moving away from a belief system leaves a void in one's life, and for both of us, art has filled that void. And so even though painting isn't necessarily, it's taken up that space without becoming that same thing, right? So painting provides that space where I can have a contemplative, meditative experience, have a self-reflective experience, have a sense of like meaning and purpose in my life without having to adopt any other religious framework. Yeah, it is a meditative thing and is also, I think, like a belief system, but is also none of those things at the same time. And that's what makes it so kind of fantastic, and so makes it such a gratifying and fulfilling way to spend my time.